Hi everybody, it's Christina Quick, the Tarot Biz Mentor here from the Profitable Psychic Business Academy. We are continuing on in our Soulmate and Twin Flame series. Today we're going to be talking about the Soulmate Ascension process of how a soulmate can ascend and transmute into a twin flame union with another potential twin. So there are 6 main stages that people are going to be going through, light workers will go through. Now, I think this is important because even if you aren't watching these videos or trainings for your own benefit of, understanding twin flames and soulmates for yourself, you probably are a professional psychic and you're probably interested in this topic, if nothing more for, understanding your clients and what they're kind of going through. And if you understand these 6 stages, it becomes very easy to understand what stages your client is currently in, what stages they've just come out of, and what stages are yet ahead of them. So it will help you tremendously when considering how to help them move into that next stage, or how to help them discern if they are if they are potentially with a potential twin or a false twin or a dark twin. Okay, so let's talk about it. So the first stage is the yearning stage. Okay, so this is the unawakened stage. So all soulmates are empaths. All soulmates have empathic abilities, have psychic empathic abilities, clear empathy. So there's a stage, there's a time when the unawakened empath is just walking around and feeling that sense of something is missing. Not everybody is going to want to be in a twin flame relationship, but I'm specifically talking about a feeling, a yearning deep inside a person, an empath, a light worker, that they want to be in a romantic relationship with someone who's going to help them better their lives. Okay, so this is twofold, because a soulmate relationship that goes through the ascension process, not only are they helping you, but you're helping them as well. It's a cooperative, co-creative, mutually beneficial relationship between light workers. Okay, and so there's this period of time where the empath is kind of wandering around, feeling like something is missing. It's at this point where we start kind of unraveling ourselves from what I call the matrix or the grid. Most people will call it the matrix. You can also call it the grid. The grid is made up of a bunch of psychic thought forms. The psychic thought forms that it's mostly made up of are ideals and projections from society, from culture, from our ancestral lineage, from our parents, and from our experiences, from things like government, from, there's like so many different areas in which there are projections on us of what is an ideal life, or what is someone is supposed to ideally do, in Western culture, it's this idea of go to school, go to college, get married, buy a house, have babies, you know, work a corporate job and pay into the system. And then if you're lucky, you'll get your money at the end. You'll get some of your money back, and the government will support you. Okay. So that's kind of like what the path is for most people within the matrix, or that are still, entangled in the grid. And a lot of these, it's unfortunate that a lot of these projections and a lot of these things related to the grid are mechanisms for fear and control, right? Because if you don't go to college, you won't get a good job. If you don't buy a house, you'll be homeless, or, you won't have a place to live. You won't have a place that's yours. If you don't get married, you'll never have kids. It's like this, they're like very threatening type of projections. And so a lot of us who identify as light workers are what we call awakening up from that. These are the sleeping narratives, as we call them. They're sleeping narratives in which they keep us busy and they keep us a cog in this giant hamster wheel, right? But a lot of us who identify as light workers are awakening up from that. The veil is starting to lift from that, the so-called veil, right? Where we're seeing things for what they really are. Especially now, we are definitely in this time and place right now in the year 2022. We are definitely benefiting from the previous light workers awakening before us. And one of the key components of awakening is to work through and heal through ancestral trauma. There's a lot of parents who are awakened light workers that are raising their children differently now. There's a lot of conversations about how college is not the end all be all. There's a lot of conversations about how many women or feminine identifying people with the womb space are choosing to remain childless by choice. So a lot of us are dismantling ourselves from the grid and not trying to be as reliant on it. We're starting our own businesses. We're becoming tarot readers. We're becoming spiritual life coaches, right? We're trying to create our own economy. We're trying to create our own community outside of that. That we'll never get away from it completely, at least not in our lifetime, because we live within it. It's like we live within the matrix, but we operate in a different way, if that makes sense. But for a lot of us, this is all going to be like around early teens and through our 20s. And so early 30s too, possibly. And actually this can happen at any age. You can be going through this. It just depends on how deeply you are entangled into the system, how reliant you are upon the system for your survival. Okay, that is in itself another trauma. So lots of trauma talk in this series, right? But for many individuals, they feel that they can break away from this grid faster and more efficiently if they team up with another person who is a potential twin. So a twin flame union is in the first stage that yearning of a support system. It's really just trying to find your soulmates. It's all about just trying to find soulmates because you're divorcing yourself from the grid and you're entering into this new community and you're looking for a supportive system that has your back. Your soul tribe, your soul family. Okay, I have a whole video about soul families. If you haven't seen that, go ahead and watch that one too. And so that's the first stage, is where you start yearning to connect with people who are on a linear or parallel path with yours and that are trying to also break away out of the grid. Um, let's see. And also, most people who want to be in a twin flame relationship, this is kind of a generalization, but most people who want to be in a twin flame relationship know that through romantic love with another person, that they're going to be able to achieve their divine life purpose a lot quicker and a lot faster and more efficiently. Twin flame stage number 2, the merge. Okay. So you're going through life, you're going through this yearning stage where you're meeting other soulmates, you're meeting other people, you're learning about empathy, clear empathy, you're learning about the dynamics of psychic vampires, you're learning about the unawakened empath, okay? You're starting to break these patterns and cycles that your parents you have inherited from them. Like, one of the big ones I talk about is money. Our ideals about money, a money mindset from our parents. The idea that you need to get a real job or that art is not work, all of these things. But there's other ones, including ones relating to relationships. For example, if you grow up in a family where your parents split very early on, you may have limiting beliefs about relationships. I was from a family that, unfortunately, my father decided that, other things were more important than his family. And so I was raised as a single child. And for a very, very long time, I felt that one of my limiting beliefs was that even if I do fall in love, that person's going to hurt or abandon me. Okay. So if you're starting to work through these, or at least you have an idea that these patterns are present, maybe you haven't started working through them, but you're understanding that these patterns are present. You're understanding that they have been projected onto you, that these are psychic thought forms that are basically assaulting your energy field, right? And preventing you from being that person that you truly want to be and preventing you from rising to your true capacity. So you're going through this, you're going through meeting all these soulmates, you meet your soul family, you start meeting some really great friends. And then from there, there's the stage called the merge. And the merge is when you actually find a soulmate that you think would be a good candidate for a twin flame. You find someone that you feel like you want to take this soulmate relationship to the next level. You want to go through this ascension process with them. So that's really what the merge stage is. And by the way, the contracts, the twin flame contracts, are typically discussed in the second stage, the merge stage. This is a time where you're going to want to really get clear about what you want from a relationship, what your long-term goals are, what are your thoughts about marriage, what are your thoughts about children, what are your thoughts about the finances, what are your thoughts about careers. We want to make sure that we are compatible on those foundational levels with this other person. So we present our terms and conditions, we present our contract to this person. Okay. And it's also at this point where you may have heard the idea of the runner and chaser. So the runner and chaser dynamic, I'm going to do a whole video on that as well. But they're in a twin flame relationship. This is outside the ideas of male and female. In a twin flame relationship, you will always have someone who is predominantly embodies masculine energetic traits. You will always have the other person who predominantly embodies feminine energetic traits. Some of those masculine traits are like protecting people, very assertive type of energy. Okay, we'll talk more about all of this. Feminine energy is very nurturing and it's very passive. Masculine energy is projective, it's assertive. Feminine energy, passive, submissive. And I don't mean that in BDSM type of tense. This is something completely different. This is the dynamics of actual energy, the energy at play. This goes beyond, you can have a very rugged masculine looking man on the outside who predominantly operates from a feminine energetic standpoint. You can have a very feminine looking woman who operates from a very masculine energetic standpoint. Okay. So it's a little complicated. It's a little bit of a mind twister, but we'll talk about it more. But there's this runner and chaser dynamic where the masculine energy is the chaser, the feminine energy is the runner. And typically the person in the potential twin flame union who identifies most with having a feminine energetic operation, regardless of their sexual orientation, regardless of their gender, regardless of ideals of male and female. We need to set these over to the side for right now, because this is a totally different type of thing. This is the energy behind how we express ourselves, right? So that is activated. And usually the runner-chaser dynamic will be activated in the merge. And it was usually the person that identifies as the feminine energy in the relationship is going to run at that point because they are trying to protect themselves from the potential of a dark twin. They're trying to protect themselves from the potential of a false twin. So one of the ways that the divine feminine protects itself is it ducks out, tucks its tail and run, because at that point it's sort of like playing hard to get, but on a spiritual level. It's because they want that masculine energy to prove to them that they really want to be in this relationship, that they're serious about their word. Okay. This is just how it is. They want to protect themselves from false twins in disguise. So the chaser, or the predominantly masculine express twin, will pursue the runner, and if worthy, will be granted the opportunity to present their intentions in the form of negotiating a twin flame contract. This would be like a marriage proposal, okay? Something along those lines. Setting a date for some type of spiritual ceremony. The third one is the actual contract. So once the merging process has begun, then the contract can really be discussed and agreed upon. So, this is where you're talking about What are your plans for the future? How do you feel about certain things, the foundational things that I mentioned before? How do you feel about family? How do you feel about marriage? How do you feel about having kids? Like, what are your life goals? What is important to you? Where do you see your career taking you? Do you, like, these are conversations like, are you wanting to travel the world? Are you wanting to stay placed in one spot? Like, you know, getting a feel for what are the hopes, dreams, goals, and ambitions for this person. And seeing if you can agree upon this or if compromise can be made. Okay. I have a whole other video that talks just about for like 30 minutes, just about contracts. But it's the contract stage is when you guys are presenting the contracts to one another. It's also at this time that boundaries are really, really, really tested. Okay. So negotiations for your twin flame contracts can take years. It took me and my twin flame 6 years of active negotiations about trying to, get to some level of agreement where our words and our actions were matching up. Because keep in mind, just because they present a contract to you doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to uphold that. There are dark and false twins out there that will do this manipulatively to create a codependent relationship with an unsuspecting empath. Okay. So it's quite insidious. You have to be aware of this. This is the point where either they're living up to these boundaries and standards that you set, and you're living up to these boundaries and standards that they have set, or you're not. Okay. And if one twin or both twins is not living up to the promises and the pledge that they pledged to this other twin, then there comes what I call a reckoning. So that's stage number 4 is the reckoning, or I'm going to call it the catalyst. Okay. So what happens if the twins are not vibrationally able to compromise between what the terms and conditions are of the relationship, what's going to happen is at first the gravity is so intense, like a binary star system, that you guys are orbiting one another, and it's so intense and so intense. Well, as the intensity builds and there's more conflict, it gets more volatile, right? And eventually you guys are going to start pushing away from each other. You're going to start repelling one another, right? And this is potentially the most volatile period of the twin flame process, because at this point you've merged lives. You're probably living together, or you at least you spend time at their place a lot. You've possibly even had a child at this point. You know their family, they know your family. Time has passed, okay? And so unentangling from one another is very, very difficult. It's very volatile. It can be very violent, right? So catalysts are something that everybody's going to go through, whether you are in a twin flame relationship or not. But catalysts, so twin flames see catalysts as something a little bit different than, say, what a normal average person would say. A catalyst could be anything from you or your partner getting sick and dealing with an illness like cancer or chronic illness, okay, lupus, these things. It can also be the death of a parent. It could be positive things like the birth of a child. It could be purchasing a home, okay? Any of these big, big things that happen within twin flame relationships that are like, they test the relationship, that is a catalyst, okay? And so what happens is, if one or more of the twins are not measuring up to those terms and conditions presented within the contract, there starts to be some karmic repercussions, all right? So what happens is that these catalysts will come about, and depending on how the twin flames deal with this catalyst is going to determine the rest of the relationship. The stability of the relationship when a catalyst happens is blown to bits. It's a very classic tower moment in tarot, right? Catalysts can also be affairs. They can be financial recklessness. And so it's at this point where the twins are presented with a choice. They can either work through the catalyst, They can realize their relationship is the most important and it can help them come together and rebuild and reaffirm the contract. Or they can utilize it as a get out of jail free card and walk completely away from the relationship. Okay, so a lot of twin flame relationships, they end at this point. Okay, a lot of false twin relationships end at this point. The next stage is the dance. Depending on the severity of the catalyst, two things can happen, right? So either the twin flames can go separate ways. They can be demoted back down to just soulmates and they can go on their separate ways and no longer be in this partnership together. Or they can utilize the catalyst and utilize that as a measure to bring the relationship closer. So it's either going to wake the twins up out of their stuff or it's going to send them separate ways. It just depends on the maturity of each of the twins and how much work they have been doing in the meantime to heal their trauma, to work on their negative traits, to work on their self-sabotaging patterns. Okay. And it's in the dance stage that the runner and the chaser dynamics are activated again. And this time the polarities will flip. So initially the person that identified as the masculine will take on traits of the feminine energy. The person who identified predominantly as the feminine part of the relationship will take on the more masculine roles. And this is what you're gonna hear about twin flame alchemy. And this is what twin flame alchemy is. It's that point where we're activating both energetic streams within our aura. So most people have one type of energy activated within them. This is usually determined by society and culture. So feminine presenting long hair, makeup, dresses is usually presented with those people usually identify as predominantly feminine. A more rugged, masculine, lumberjack type person might present more as more masculine energy. Those are the social constructs of society and culture. Okay. Outside of that, there is what we call twin flame alchemy, where we always have both masculine and feminine energies available to us. What they are is they are raw creative forces. We can utilize these powers in order to manifest. If you know how to use masculine energy, if you know how to utilize feminine energy, you can manipulate time and space and you can create and you can manifest things very, very, very quickly. So what happens in the twin flame relationship process in the dance phase is these thought forms, these archetypes, runner and chaser, are activated yet once again, only the polarity is switched. So what that means is it gives that person an opportunity to activate their dormant energy. So should the runner and chaser be able to activate both of those energies within themselves, they bring a fullness, a completeness to the relationship. And that's kind of where this idea of you aren't complete without a twin flame kind of comes from. But you don't have to go through a twin flame union in order to do this within yourself. You can completely do this within yourself. You can activate both masculine and feminine energies within yourself. But one way to do that is through a twin flame union. But there are many different ways, many different tools, many different ways that you can do it. Okay. You can do it through magic. You can do it through meditation. You can do it through yoga. You can do it through so many different things. All right. But once that is activated between both of those twin flames, then that healing is going to occur. Okay. And that will go into surrender. But let's see. So let me say one more thing about the dance stage. So the dance stage is really interesting because at that point, if all is going well, then we are activating both masculine and feminine energies within each of us. And so what it does is we do this dance with our other partner where in the beginning, say if you're a runner, in the beginning, they chased you. Now it's your turn to chase them. In the beginning of the relationship, if you were the chaser, now it's them, their time to come chase you. Or if you pursued in the beginning, then now it's your time to run and to let them prove to you that this contract is, that they still want to affirm this twin flame contract. Okay. So the twin that is receiving karmic consequences of breaching the twin flame contract must go on a hero's journey to confront the catalyst with the help of the other twin. And so at that point, you either decide we're going to face this catalyst together and we're going to be stronger because of it. And I'm going to be what you need me to be, and you're going to be what I need you to be. And we're going to do this together, or we're not, and we're going to go separate ways. If it goes past this, the dance stage, the last stage is the stage of surrender. And this is where the runner chaser dynamic completely comes to a halt. Okay. There's usually some type of separation involved in several of these stages, but this is where that separation stops. So, as we act out these motifs of runner and chaser, there should hopefully be some type of healing activation within that. Should there be the healing activation, then we come to what is called the surrender, where we surrender to one another. You surrender to the twin flame relationship. And it's at this point where the twin flame relationship is the most powerful. That's where you become the power couple. That's where you become anything that you guys want, you guys can do together, right? You start manifesting in a quantum way where manifesting is happening like past, present, and future. And it's just a really, really intense type of creative, raw power energy. And catalysts. So here's the important thing to know about the final stage. The final stage is the final stage, but it's never really final. You're going to flip in between 5 and 6 throughout the rest of your life. Okay. So there's always going to be more catalysts. And those catalysts, like I said, can be negative catalysts where there's an affair or cheating or something like that going on, or financial recklessness, or there's positive catalysts like having a child together. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's not a good thing. It just kind of depends on the relationship. Or buying a house or something like that. And you're going to continue to be tested. These catalysts are going to keep coming around. And that's because the idea is that, you're growing as a person. You're not the same person you were yesterday. You're not the same person you were a year ago. You sure aren't the same person you were 10 years ago. So as you are with your twin flame, about every 5 years or so, you're going to go through a catalyst. Some of the catalysts that I've personally gone through is like mostly loss of financial stability, like loss of a job or something like that, where we have to kind of start over from ground zero. We blow through our savings or something like that. Something happens or something medical happens where, like, we just had a thing where my husband had to have like $15,000 worth of scans done because his insurance is not very good. And so that our savings took a huge hit because, and so we have to kind of rebuild from that. And these are opportunities. The catalysts are always opportunities in which you can reaffirm the contract to come together. And so you're always going to continue to be tested, but I feel like there comes a point where in the surrender, like, you stop fighting about the little stuff. Like me and my twin flame, I mean, we have been in the surrender stage since 2000, I would say, really since I started my business. That's when because I wouldn't have been able to start my business if we weren't in the surrender stage. Because again, it was another situation where I got laid off and he lost his job and we got kicked out of our apartment, and his father passed away. And it was like this huge dark night of the soul. And we worked through it. We came together. We got our heads out of our butts and we got together. We came together. We conquered it. And so now it's like, that's what everybody's really striving for. They're striving for that surrender stage where everything's good. It doesn't mean that you're not tested. It doesn't mean that you don't fight. It doesn't mean that there aren't lower vibrational things that happen. There's always going to be distractions. But the idea is that you will know that you are safe in that surrender stage when you feel like, instead of something bad happening, you're like, when something bad happens, and if you think we'll never get through this, you're not in the surrender stage. You're still probably in the dance and catalyst stage. But if something negative happens and you're like, we can totally overcome this. We can do this. We can do this together. We are strong enough. It doesn't matter wherever you are, wherever we are. We could live in a cardboard box as long as we're together. We can do it. We can get through this. Then you are in the surrender stage. So I'm curious, are there any other stages that you think are important? If you are familiar with any of these stages on a personal level, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. And I will see you guys in the next video. The next video, we're going to be talking about dark twins and false twins. And hey, by the way, I do have a couple sales going on. If you are interested in becoming a love and relationship reader, psychic reader, or you want to increase your skills, or you want to add more listings to your Etsy shop, check out the description box below, because I'm going to have some special offers just for you guys listed down there. So I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.